Ever get that creepy feeling scrolling through your TikTok or YouTube? It's like, hold on, how do they know me so well?
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of freaky, right? Like the algorithms figured out exactly what you want to see, even if you didn't know you wanted to see it.
Definitely.
Well, on that note, today we're going deep, and I mean deep, into this whole algorithm thing.
Okay.
We're talking about what would happen and what it says about us if you could experience someone else's curated feed. I mean, think about it, right? Back in the day, if you wanted to find something online, like, say, funny cat videos, you actually had to, well, type in funny cat videos.
I had to do a little work, search a little. Now it's just all, like, given to us.
Totally.
Okay.
And our source for this deep dive points out this whole shift. It's not just about finding stuff anymore. It's about being fed this, as they put it, optimally engaging content.
Yeah, and that's kind of a loaded phrase when you think about it, right? Optimally engaging.
It really is. What does that even mean?
Well, it's designed, obviously, to keep you scrolling, right? Keep you clicking. And it's not necessarily about showing you the most, like, I don't know, high quality or most accurate stuff, but the stuff that'll keep your eyes glued to the screen the longest.
It's kind of scary how good it is, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you ever fall into that internet rabbit hole, and then suddenly hours have passed?
Oh.
That's the algorithm at work.
Yeah.
It's shaping what we see, what we think about.
Totally. And going back to your earlier point, imagine if you could see the internet through somebody else's feed. It really would be like almost stepping into their version of reality in a way.
Right. And that's what I find so fascinating and also a little, unsettling about this whole thing. Our source for today actually had a quote. They said, the more you allow an algorithm to curate your online experience, the more power you give over to that algorithm.
It's true, and it can be tough because on the one hand, sure, I love when Spotify knows exactly what I want to hear, or when Netflix recommends a show I end up loving. But on the other hand, you've got to think about, like, what about the stuff we're not seeing? What about the other side of the story, you know?
Totally. It's like, are we even making our own choices anymore? Or is the algorithm kind of like low-key deciding for us?
Yeah, and that's where I think it can get a little maybe dangerous. If it's feeding us only what we already agree with or only showing us one perspective, that's how you get, like, echo chambers.
Exactly. It's like if all you ever see are videos and posts that confirm what you already believe, you might miss out on other viewpoints. And not to get too, like, political or philosophical here, but whose reality are we really seeing then?
Right. It's a good question. I mean, on a slightly less existential level, think about the impact on something like the news. If your feed is only showing you articles from sources that align with a certain viewpoint, you might not even realize that other perspectives exist.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's almost like our own personal biases are being amplified by the algorithms.
Right.
And it's not just about news either. It's everything. Like you mentioned, music and movies, but even just like products we buy, places we go.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, look at targeted advertising. It's everywhere online, and it's all based on our online behavior, what we click on, what we search for.
And what's crazy is, like, we're often not even aware it's happening. It's this kind of like subtle manipulation that's happening in the background. But at the same time, I do think there are some potential positives to all of this, right?
Of course, yeah.
Like you were saying, personalized recommendations can introduce us to new things we might never have found on our own.
Definitely. I mean, think about education, for example. Imagine a world where algorithms could curate personalized learning experiences for students based on their individual strengths and weaknesses. That could be amazing.
Absolutely. Or even just for, like, connecting with people who have similar interests,
Yeah.
Like finding online communities or groups you didn't even know existed.
Yeah. It's definitely a double-edged sword, this whole algorithm thing, Lots of potential upsides, but also something we really need to be aware of and think critically about, or we could end up just letting these algorithms kind of dictate how we experience the world.
And that's what it all comes down to, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If our feeds are essentially curating a version of reality for us, we need to be mindful of that and make sure we're not just passively accepting it.
Absolutely.
It's something to think about, right? Like, what does it even mean to have a personalized view of the world in the age of algorithms?
That's a great question.
We could talk about this all day, but that about wraps us up for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone. And as always, keep those digital eyes peeled.
Yeah, and stay curious.